So today I'm going to be showing you all how to take a pencil sketch, traditional artwork, and digitally color it in Procreate. So the first thing you're going to want to do after you create your document is insert your drawing. So I'm going to do this one. And now you want to just take a picture, scan your art, whatever you prefer. This one, since I'm already on the iPad with Procreate, I just took a picture with the iPad, cleaned it up a little bit, and dropped it in here. Now you are going to want a pretty good picture, and it's going to be mostly black and white for this method of how I'm doing this. So I'm going to go into, let's go curves, and I'm going to clean it up even a little bit more, push my whites to be really white and my darker colors to be just a little bit darker. Alright, so once you got your line work cleaned up a little bit, then you want to go into your layers, and on the layer where you have your artwork, you're going to want to set that to multiply. So now what that does is it takes anything that is white and it'll let color show through, and anything that is dark, and it'll multiply that into the layer below it and make it dark. And if it's all the way black, it'll stay black. So now anything that I do under that multiply layer over here, any color I put will show through anywhere where it's white. So you can already see after that one step, you can basically come in here and color your artwork. So then what I like to do is I like to put in my flats. So I'll grab kind of a light tan brown for the vest here. Now this is actually, I drew this picture a little bit earlier in the week, and I was out fishing, just enjoying the weather out at my local river where I usually go to fish, and I guess I got a little too confident with what I was doing. I waited out a little too far and I slipped and fell in, and it was terrible. I got completely soaking wet. I ruined my phone. Anything else that was with me, I had to dry out my wallet and everything because I wasn't smart. I didn't put it all in a plastic bag and got soaking wet. So I did a little self-portrait. So this is actually me after that fishing trip. And I wanted to kind of do a caricature of myself after that to kind of show how I was feeling, my frustration, whatever. So that's kind of the little story behind this sketch and how it came to be. But I also thought this would be a fun one to color, and it would be a good example to show you guys how I prefer, or how I go about digitally coloring something that I drew in my sketchbook. And this method will actually work in Photoshop as well, because there's the same layer blending modes, and it works out really great. So as I'm filling this in, you can see the parts where I have the pencil is staying nice and dark, and the areas where it's light, the color is showing through nicely. So like this dark gray is staying nice and dark, and that beige, anywhere where there isn't pencil, it's showing through really nicely. And you can see I'm just painting on the layer below the pencils while it's on multiply. And then I'll just go in and I'll fill in all my flats. And if you have a really nice, tight, clean pencil drawing, you don't really even need to go much farther than the flats, because you will already have all your shadows sketched in from your pencil drawing. And of course, the cleaner your drawing is, the cleaner your artwork will come out. I like my sketches, my drawings, to especially when it's in my sketchbook, to be a little rougher, a little sketchier. I think it gives it a little more attitude, a little more style. I find it to be a little more interesting and a little more raw. It doesn't look like some perfect cleaned up drawing from some art gallery or something. Because that's how I like my sketchbook to look and feel. So I'll come in here and I'll put in my skin tones, just like this. And you can see how this kind of all just comes together. And of course, you can color in below your line work as detailed or as loose as you want. I'll probably keep it pretty loose today. Finish the head here. And this would be the same as if you were using ink or a pencil drawing from your sketchbook. This is sometimes how I like to do my comic books too. After I've done some traditional inks, I like to set that layer up on top, give it a blend mode of multiply, and then just put in my colors below that. And it works really well, and it's pretty quick. It's a nice fast way to put down colors. And of course, I'm just grabbing these colors pretty quickly just to lay them in there, and then once they're in there, you can adjust them as much or as little as you want. Just the same as any other digital painting that you would do. Alright, so I think we're getting pretty close here. Fill in these shoes real quick. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put the background behind me on another layer just so that it's easier to edit. I'm going to grab, let's do this texture brush. And this was down at a river that was kind of dirty, so we're going to make it kind of a desaturated green color. And just kind of, I'm going to keep the background pretty loose. Back here like this, and then we'll throw in some brown around here for the bank of the river, and maybe make it a little lighter in the background back here. And then kind of fill in some of this stuff right here. Maybe make it a little green. I'm gonna keep the background pretty loose and abstract because it's not really the focus of this illustration, but I still want something to just kind of be there. Now, as you can see, all this is just flat color, and it looks like there's a little bit of shadow there because of the pencils, which, if you know that you're going to do this already, you can kind of plan ahead and do your pencils a little nicer, do some nice shading with your pencils, and then you have less digital work to do. For the sake of the tutorial, I think I'm just going to do minor shadows and highlights. So as you can see, that's what it looks like without the line work. Pretty messy and sloppy. So you can see how the lines really hold it together. And of course, if I wasn't using those lines, then I would have my flats way tighter because they would be seen a lot more. Now let's color in this fishing pole. There we go. This is also really great for like concept art if you want to throw together some quick colors, but it doesn't have to be really nice. You just want to do some color concepts so you can do 3 or 4 different outfits or color schemes for whatever you're working on. And then of course you can come up above your line work and paint in if you want it to be over top of your pencils. So I'm going to grab a very, very light blue and paint in some light highlights on this water, these water droplets, just to maybe help them look a little more wet. Yeah, I'll do that. So this illustration here could get really detailed, but I hope what you all take away from this is just how you color the line work. So you start out with your pencils and you place that in there, clean it up a little bit, then you set it to a multiply blending mode, and then anything you paint under that will show up as color. So I'm going to fill in these raindrops, or not raindrops, wet water drops real quickly, just to kind of help the illustration out a little bit. And then just to show you all how you can do shadows, I'm going to make a layer on top of my flats here, and it's just going to be a normal layer. And then I can come in, I'll still use a pretty hard brush, and grab that color, make it a little darker, a little cooler, and a little bit more desaturated, and then you can paint in your shadows. Right like this. I want that a little darker. So we're gonna make it a lot darker and a little cooler and a little more desaturated. Now, you paint in the shadows right like this. And you can use your pencils, of course, as a guide for your shadows because you already have those sketched in there. Oh, I just have to be careful I don't paint over certain things. And if you want to clean up your layer, that makes it a little easier too. If you have the layer for the hair on top of the layer for the skin and etc. Other digital painting techniques and stuff like that, just to help you keep your shading nice and tight and where it needs to be. But I'm gonna keep this pretty loose because I'm just showing you how to color line art. So as you can see, you can come in and fill in the rest of your illustration with shadows, put some on the shorts, here, and then like this. When I first learned how to do this, I thought it was such a cool technique, and I was so excited that I could take traditional sketches that I had done, because that's what I always grew up sketching, was just in my sketchbook with a pencil, sometimes with ink, but just drawing and doodling all day. And then I started to learn digital stuff, and I thought it was really cool, and I thought digital colors looked really awesome, especially in like comic art and stuff like that. So whenever I first learned this technique, I kind of went crazy with it, and I drew and colored so many sketches digitally, and I actually learned to do this in Photoshop, and the technique carries over very well into Procreate because of the layer blending modes. So I would do the same thing in Photoshop. I would grab my sketch, I would scan it or just take a picture I would usually just take a picture because it was a little faster, and as long as you get a pretty decent picture and you clean it up all right, it works all the same. And then I would load that thing into Photoshop and I would color so many pictures. So you can kind of see how this plays out. So as you can see, very sloppy underneath that line art, but when you have that line art on top with that multiply blend mode, then anything in the dark, you can see the pencil. Anything that's not penciled, anything that's white and light, the color underneath shows through. So I hope this helped you as you learn digital art, maybe as you learn Procreate, and I hope you can enjoy taking your traditional sketches like I did growing up and coloring them digitally, because that was a pretty big breakthrough moment for me with digital art, was when I learned how to take traditional artwork and turn it into something digital. So thanks for watching. I hope you learned. If you do this method and you enjoy it and you create something cool, post it on Instagram and tag me at Zachary Allen Art. I would love to see what you guys make, what you're working on. Thanks for watching.